Hey everyone, welcome to the show. You guys will remember way back when we first got started, my good friend Yvonne Holmes joined us for a conversation. At that time, we had one on religion. And today we're going to kind of dive into the economy. We were talking earlier, and Yvonne had kind of mentioned what her lunch for a couple at fast food joint cost today. So, uh, and really kind of talk about what's going on in the world. Yvonne and I both study finance together. So I don't know how many of you kind of have an idea of some of the things that might be impacting the economy right now. So Yvonne, I'm going to turn it on over to you if you want to introduce yourself and maybe share a little bit about, what you're seeing. That'd be great.
Well, I hope I can do a good job of this. I don't consider myself to be an expert on finance by any stretch of the imagination, but I can certainly talk about the things that we're experiencing and how inflation is impacting us. Again, my name is Yvonne Holmes and living right here in Phoenix, Arizona, and just remembering what even housing prices and home to rent an apartment cost back when we first moved here in 2016, and just how much things have changed and how crazy the market has gotten over the past few years. Oh my gosh, I remember looking as we were looking at real estate before we moved here, probably 2014 or 2015, and there was a beautiful home out in Whitman that sat, I believe, on 2 acres. And I know the asking price was $250,000. And I know they did that to start a bidding war. But I mean, 4 bedrooms, 4 bathrooms. It was incredible. And the fact that they even put $250,000 down as the starting place for a home of that caliber was unbelievable. And I mentioned earlier today that we live in Phoenix. We live in Glendale adjacent, I guess you could say. And I just signed a new lease for where we live. We live in a really nice, beautiful apartment complex, but just this past year, we've paid $1,300 a month rent for a 2 bedroom, 2 bath apartment. We've got an attached garage. So like I said, it's quite a lovely place, but we had a $275 rent increase that's going to be effective September 1st. What about people who are really low income, really poor people? What are they going to do?
Well, and didn't you move there? Because weren't you renting a house
Yeah.
when you moved into there, and that was going to be something that was more comfortable and would give you guys the opportunity to start to eliminate some debt and do those things. And now aren't you kind of right back where you started in the house?
Right back where we started.
Well, and of course, there's no way you could get a house for that price now. I mean, I know houses right now are going, upwards of 1,600 for maybe a tiny 3 bedroom, 2 bath on up into the 2000s. In fact, I actually had a client, I just sold their house. They got an apartment complex. They got an apartment, and for them, it's a larger one. It was a 2-story townhouse, and I think it was over $2,200.
Wow.
For their for that rent in an apartment, which is and maybe in I'm sure my listeners in LA and New York and back east and other major cities are like,
they're laughing.
That's not a big deal, but we don't have the wages comparable to that either, right?
No, and that's very true. And I was my baby sister, she, you remember when we went to her house in Corona. So now she's contemplating selling her home. And so we said,
Mm,
well, why don't you just sell it? I mean, she told us that it was, I believe she said it was uh, probably would sell around $900,000. And
yeah.
she said, why don't you just go ahead and sell it and
Mhm.
then rent an apartment and then figure out the rest later. She said,
Yeah.
are you kidding me? She didn't say how much her house payment was, but
Right.
she said rent in Riverside was $3,800 a month for a 2 bedroom, 2 bath. So
Wow.
so it is relative. That's true. It's relative, but that's insanity.
Right.
Um, what
And
happens
yet,
with poor people?
and then the other thing that I find since, just for perspective, we've been watching, as you said, the purchase prices of houses go up dramatically. And I saw the stats, because of my real estate license and my background there. I saw the stats in MLS. And when I go back to 2008, when we had that huge bubble, that artificial bubble that popped, we were looking at average sale prices still in the high threes, 350 and up.
Hmm.
I
Hmm.
was blown away because the average sale price was 500. It was either 503 or $508,000. I'm like,
Oh my,
as an average. So,
average.
here in Arizona, 500 used to be luxury, right? 500 above
Yes,
started to put you into the luxury market. And that's the average, according to the MLS stats. So, uh, that's, that's a
that's
hefty
crazy.
mortgage too.
Yeah, it
And
is.
the reality is when we see who's purchasing these homes, a lot of them are being purchased by investors above appraised value, not by a homeowner. I mean, not that homeowners aren't trying to purchase them, but they're getting bid out and
Out, yes.
outbid by the investors that have cash. And you just kind
Once
of
again,
wonder, and so there's this rising costs, right? And yet I look around and there's so many people that aren't working, right? You know,
yes, that's correct. That's correct.
you've got and it's not that there aren't jobs, there's tons of
There's
job
tons of
openings.
jobs, tons of jobs. But now here's what, and one of our friends said
Mhm.
the other day, because seems like we were talking about it, and I believe it was Carmen who said the
Mhm.
fastest growing, the rates among the elderly are the fastest growing homeless people.
Mm,
So those people aren't out looking for jobs because you know, they're elderly. And
right.
so the elderly population is the fastest growing population that's becoming homeless.
Wow.
And that's very, very, very sad. That's very sad.
Right. And I know I had just done a show about planning for retirement, and we were talking about the the 95% live this 45-year plan
Yes.
that they expect, with everything that they've put in throughout the years at their jobs or whatever, that they're going to have that to live off of. And yet you see this
Yeah.
increase in cost of living, and it's across the board. I mean, the highest cost, obviously housing is huge, but I don't even know that that's being measured in the cost of living right now, because
Oh, yes. Hmm.
when you get the numbers out, I know they talk about the biggest costs being in energy,
Hmm.
in your energy and food.
Food. Yes.
um and those were like 48%. I mean, insane hikes. And you had an experience today around food that was kind of mind blowing, right?
Yes, we went to one of our favorite places to eat, and Fidel and I ordered something that would normally cost, I believe, $7.75, $8, it was almost $10 each. So by the time we finished at your local fast food place, the two of us spent $32 and some odd cents. And then we had to go back and get, because we sat down there and ate, and then we went and bought my sister something to eat as well. That was $40 for 3 people out the door. That was pretty insane.
And then you think about how many people like literally live off of fast food, right? I mean, they're stopping for dinner, they're stopping for breakfast, they're, feeding families, Happy Meals and whatever a few times a week. And it tends to be, I mean, a lot of times it is, the lower income working class that is eating that way because they just don't have the time, right? They don't have the time or the energy by the time they get done working. And then, but then yet, like I said, we have all these job openings. I mean, they're everywhere you go. I know my husband's in the trades and they are looking for people, and those are good paying jobs.
Those are great paying jobs.
Good paying jobs, and they can't get
wow,
people to go into the internships to learn.
Wow.
And so, and I know obviously stimuluses have a good bit to do with that, the bonus unemployment, because I think here in Arizona, isn't it like an additional 500 on top of the normal 3 something? So
I have no clue because we've gotten none of that. Absolutely zero. Okay.
Yeah. Because you guys were business owners, right? You were a self-employed business owner. So yeah. And yet you no longer have as much work in that self-employed or as much pay in that self-employed environment either.
Right. That's right.
So those still working and trying. So how has this, I mean, you guys had businesses, a couple of them. How has this impacted your ability to earn in your businesses?
Well, it has had quite a horrific impact on that. And some things that I haven't even had the opportunity to tell you. Okay. So I don't know that I want to go into that here, but it has been horrific. Yes, it has. Yeah. It has given me a whole new perspective on what you and I do on a daily basis. So it has given it a sense of urgency. I don't know if you've noticed that or not, but
go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
Well, let's try to break down a little bit. I know, you're currently reading a book on what we affectionately call the financial matrix.
That's right.
Let's kind of break down a little bit what's really causing all of this, because I feel like there's this little bit of this false sense of security. Like, housing prices are rising, people are buying them, there's bidding wars. I mean, it seems for all intents and purposes that this economy is booming, right?
Yes, it does. Yes, it does. There's the great illusion. Okay.
Prices are going up. People are out spending money. I mean, now we're getting ready to travel. I mean, now travel is, opened up and people are spending money to do that. And yet what's going on in the background?
I think that it's really insane. People are losing their houses. They're not talking about it. People are getting their cars repossessed. They're not talking about that. Um, it's a lot of things that are happening that is simply being just kind of pushed under the rug and not being spoken about because they don't want to scare people. They want to get all they can get for as long as they can get it. Um, and I'm talking about the financial matrix. So um, that's what I think is happening in the background, and it's pretty scary because we all know what happened in 2008, and it came up on us like like Fidel and I knew it was coming because we listened to people like Robert Kiyosaki. We read those books, and yet, as much as we knew it was coming, it still hit like boom.
Yeah,
So it was
I was absolutely in denial for many of the same reasons that that many are in denial, I think, especially here in Arizona, because right now in Arizona, it's, oh, well, everybody's coming from California. That migration's not going to stop. Everybody's coming from all these other places.
mhm.
We're okay here, right? We're
All these
fine in
companies moving
Arizona.
here. Yep.
All the companies are moving here. Arizona's not going to experience that. And I go back to 2008, and we were saying the same thing. All these places
Wow.
were moving here, but they started to put the kibosh, they started to halt the moves, right? And I wonder, I mean, think about it. How many companies are going to continue? I mean, maybe they had plans, you know, 6 months ago, a year ago to
Mhm.
move to here. And now some of those tax shelters that large businesses and businesses received for staying here in the US versus going overseas are going
Oh,
away.
yes.
So how many of them are still going to follow through, you know, that you
That's
think,
a
I mean,
very good question.
you know, and then you've got, you know, and like I said, one of the things that was very interesting for me is just the sheer number of institutional loan or not the institutional buyers, you know, the hedge funds, the
Mhm.
big
Mhm.
companies and you know, real estate groups that are buying these properties, right, above appraisal. I mean, that in any investment world never makes sense. So why would they do that? And interestingly, I had to sit down with the author of the book that you and I were talking about.
Mhm.
And he had said that that professional investors are also investing in treasury bonds. Like, there's no interest on treasury bonds. Like, why would you? And I'm like, interesting, because
That's very interesting.
I was asking for advice. And so what I got, what I learned, what I was told was that that they're doing that because it's a place to shelter it from loss. Like, so
Oh,
it stays an asset because it's a treasury bond. So they're going to still get whatever that bond is worth back as a US treasury bond,
so they won't
right?
lose any money. They might not get a
So
whole
so
lot,
they
but they
may
won't
not
lose it.
lose it. Yeah, they're not going to lose it, but they're protecting it. And I thought, now that makes sense.
Okay.
That makes sense why you would have investors buying real estate, because it's a tangible asset.
Okay.
It's
Okay.
not a
Yes.
stock or a bond or a
Yes.
fund or
Paper,
something that's going up and down. It's a tangible asset.
not a paper asset.
And so, yet, you know, all of us, you know, regular people are flocking to crypto and flocking to the stock market and try to get rich there, right?
Right?
you
Yes.
know,
Yes. Yes. Yes.
or jump on this insurance program, you know, this insurance that's going to pay out whether you live or die. And, you know, and I wonder, you know, how many people are really, I mean, in this false sense of security. They've got, you know, it just like we were in 08, you know, thinking, oh, it can never, it can't happen again. We're not going to make those mistakes. But let's look at what we've done over the past, say, 2 years with all of this. the money the country is already trillions of dollars in debt. And that little meter clicks up by the second.
Yes, it does. Yes, it does.
And then we print money that we don't have for stimulus payments, right?
Yes.
And so, and there's some going out right now, I understand, correct? I don't receive them
Yes,
either.
that's what I heard. Won't happen to me, but
yeah. I haven't seen one.
Oh, you haven't seen one either?
No.
Okay. Well.
And so these stimulus payments are going out, and people are spending, they're shopping. I mean, that's why you see everybody at the store. It's why people are making the big purchases. They're traveling. Yeah. I mean, all of the things that, suddenly they have this windfall, whether it's a $600 windfall or a $4,000 windfall, whatever that looks like. And they're going on as though it's just going to continue. Yep. It's going to go on forever. And, some working people, some non-working. And then in the background, we're getting news of the inflation numbers. So
was that 5.5% inflation?
Mm-hmm.
Just this month alone?
Yeah.
Last month?
Yes. Yeah. Well, at the year ending last month, it had just hit 5.2 or something. And now it's gone up just this month.
Wow.
Again. And the last time that we were that high was, got a guess?
Let me guess. What, 2008?
May of 2008.
Listen, that was a devastating time for people. And I remember, you're making me remember, because we were living in Riverside at that time, and Fidel and I and Trisha were living in that big house over there, kind of similar to where my baby sister lives. And we anytime people were driving through the neighborhood, they had their what do you call those Sea-Doos, those things you ride on the water. And,
okay, right.
And boats, and they had all kind of stuff. And my husband was going, where are they getting this? How are they doing this? What's going to happen? Because again, we knew that it was going to come sooner or later. We just didn't know exactly when. And it just, and by that time we had bought a new tractor for our business, and leased on to a new company. And just as we did that, boom, kaboom. Okay. Yeah. We literally, that year, that was our first year with that truck. When we completed that year, when we filed our tax returns, we were this close, about $10,000 short of qualifying for the low income earned income tax credit. That we were $10,000 from that. That was a really rough, yes.
I remember it well. And for sure, now there's something that and then of course the big surprise then was, like, at least in the real estate market, like, okay, we already knew it was slowing down. We got that it was going to slow. What nobody ever expect was just the sinking of prices. And I think that's sort of, I think that's maybe one of the little factors that might be disguising what's going on. So let's talk about that. It's I want to hear from our sponsor real quick. We'll come right back after the break. So stay tuned, and we're going to talk about, what those inflation numbers mean and why we're in such a pickle with them right now. So we're going to hear from the sponsor. Be right back.
Have you heard about our brand new sponsor, Google G Suite? Get 14 days on us, the best way to transform your business. That's right. Deals.transformu.us. Deals.transform.us. Reliable communication and work on the go. Collaboration tools and extra cloud space. The best way to scale up your business at a low cost. 14 days on us. Don't worry about the bill. Tell them that I sent you there.
Hi, and welcome back to the show. I'm Brenda Kilhofer. I'm your Cheap Mama, and I'm here with Yvonne Holmes today. And, we're talking about finance right now and kind of what's going on and this almost false sense of security. I think many we're walking around with in many cases. So we left off with inflation numbers, right? At what, 5.5%?
Yes, 5.5%.
Now, share with me what you've learned that means to the power of our dollar. And really, I mean, what caused that to begin with is the printing of the money, right?
That's correct. That's
Okay.
correct. They have the authority to print money whenever they want to, whenever they feel like they want to create some I don't know, I want to say unfunded mandate, as my husband would say, and they print money and all they end up doing is just barely paying the interest on the national debt. So in the meantime, the more money they print, the less buying power us everyday people have. And it means that your money doesn't go nearly as far. You end up, prices end up rising, but your salaries don't. So you're unable to keep up with the cost of living, basically.
Yeah. And so the salaries aren't going up. Heck, people aren't even working in many cases. We've got open jobs everywhere. We're seeing more and more of the better paying jobs being able to be duplicated and replaced maybe with technology, and even the lesser paying jobs. So like when people are, I think that's one thing that concerns me. So like, I mean, let's face it, you walk into your local grocery store or your local Walmart or anywhere anymore, and there's fewer and fewer cashiers and more self-pay options.
That's right.
And that's happening now when you walk into, even your fast food restaurants, and now they have little kiosks where you can type it up and then you get your food. And it was interesting. We were in Florida not too long ago, and we actually went to a restaurant, and I think it started out as part of their sanitizing thing. And do you know that the food was actually placed on little robots that came out to the table? Little wheeling robots. Me. No.
Wow.
And so I think, I don't think any of us are, immune or unknowing to the fact that at some point the stimulus is going to stop, right?
Right.
At some point it's got to stop. And so then when people are ready to go out for jobs, how many are those even going to be there? Because now, companies and corporations, because nobody's going into the job market, are being forced to use technology to do more automation and so will they be needed? And I know you're in the trucking industry, and we've heard that, at least now, right now, there, and even there's a shortage from what I understand. I mean, or at least that's what we're, that's right now. We couldn't get anything but premium gas the other day, and we were told it was because there's a shortage of tanker drivers.
Oh, wow. So this is I happened to see a YouTube today where Uber bought out Transplace Logistics. Transplace Logistics is an offshoot or a subsidiary of the J.B. Hunt Corporation. Okay. So Uber bought them out in order at, what was that, over $2 billion,
Mhm.
$2.2 billion. And let me make sure I'm wording this correctly. So Uber also has the technology for the driverless truck, right?
Mhm.
So now
Right.
they're going to rule the trucking industry with
Yeah.
driverless trucks going to all of their customers, picking up freight and doing that automated thing, and they're going to run the whole industry. What do you? That right there.
Well, and then many people aren't even aware. We became aware because we've got a 16-year-old that wants a car, and now they're not available. I mean, the second, the used market is up over 40%.
Oh yes, that's right.
New market, they can't even drive them off the lot because of a microchip,
They
right?
don't have a chip in them. That's right.
And so rental cars, what I've heard is they sold them off during COVID because they were, just sitting there not being used. Well, now there's a demand for them, but they don't have
That's
enough.
right.
And I know we're getting ready to travel, and we ended up using Turo, an app. And, what is interesting is most of the cars that are on the app, there's probably like 10 Teslas to every one of anything else, right?
Okay.
And so now you think about even the rental car industry. Typically you've got employees, you go up, somebody's handing you the keys, they're bringing it back, they're cleaning it up, those things. And with this, the guy's like, I'll let you know where it's parked. I'm going to remote unlock it. Here's the app for you for Tesla. Here's the Tesla app so that you'll be able to do what you need to do when you get there. And then the customer's expected to bring it back clean or pay a fee, if they're not a hefty fee, if they don't want to bring it back completely in the same condition that they got it. And boom, there's a whole industry gone. Right?
There it is.
Just like Airbnb, when you look at Airbnb being the biggest of the hotel industries, technology is really taking over a lot of the job, and of course we already see, that with Amazon and, drone deliveries and
oh yes, that's right. The little
and
robot
now
deliveries for the pizza,
right,
the cars, automated cars.
And Amazon's gotten so, at least here in Phoenix, with the different warehouses here, they've I want to support small business, and then there's sometimes that it's just like, what, I need this tomorrow, or I need this in a few hours, and I don't want to go out, and they can get it to you in a few hours now.
That's right.
It's
That's
like,
right.
it's incredible.
Yes.
The way technology is taking over. So anyway, we totally went
Yeah, we did.
somewhere
Okay.
else with our conversation. But so we were talking about the buying power is less. Because they printed money. So therefore, we're starting to see inflation. Well, usually what the feds would do to curb inflation. So if you go way back in history, when you look at, Germany, and when Germany had that, collapse, that huge collapse. And we're talking bread at $20, $30, for bread, things like that, just ridiculous amounts because the inflation had gone so high. And and that was because there wasn't any government. It was, they allowed the natural wave, the natural progression, the supply and demand, which is truly the heart of capitalism, right? It's not what we practice today.
No,
but that's truly the heart of capitalism, is allow supply and demand to dictate prices and, exchange of value and things like that. But we've had government making the rules and, being involved all of these years and removing the gold standard, which, completely eliminated that natural progression. So in the past, what they would do is raise interest rates
Yes.
to curb inflation. But they're kind of in a pickle, right?
That's right.
That's
right.
How do you raise rates if you need people to work and buy to make money? So you got to keep the rates low so that they know that, oh, Yvonne's going to go out and get a job because she's got a mortgage she's got to pay off. She's got to pay off these credit cards that we're going to give her super, super cheap. And by the way, we're going to give them these government loans, and we're going to put those so far out in the future that she'll keep using that credit card, right? Let's give her a PPP loan. Let's give her this small business loan, and we're going to defer it. You know what? 1 year was not enough. Let's defer it another year. That way she can still max out the credit card and go buy that house or go buy that new car, right? And meanwhile, so then when it all comes due, what happens?
Well, you're going to default. You're going to default because that's scary. That really is. That's one of the, I've been kind of glad that we didn't get, those stimulus checks, because I was like, that's going to come back on. I believe that's going to come back on the public. I really do.
Oh, for sure.
And the PPP loans. Oh, yeah. No, we've stayed far away from that, fortunately. So that's one of the few.
Yeah. And I mean, and that was, for me, it was, like 2008 was rough.
It's
just
bad.
Like you said, it was bad.
It was bad.
And fortunately, we learned some lessons and we made some changes. And so, we're in better shape than most because we don't have all of the debt, but we still have a mortgage. And I still, I'm still going to be concerned about that. Right. Until that's completely paid off. And especially when you look at the cost of energy, it's going up. The cost of food is going up. I mean, we've got some little farm animals that can help out. And what do we see in the media? All these new regulations that are trying to be introduced to eliminate the ability to do that as well. And then I get, and then we look at, there's ships sitting out that aren't, again, I think the explanation has all been that nobody to work to make it happen or, whatever, but then that's going to create some supply and demand issues.
Oh, yes.
That on top of the inflation that's already occurring is going to, I mean, heck, if you can see people selling toilet paper for $20 on Amazon, what are we going to see when the things do start to?
There's a shortage of chicken wings. Did you know that?
Oh, I've got a freezer full of them. No, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
That's funny because Butcher Box was actually giving them away as a freebie, so we get them. Well, it was an add-on, like because they would do those lifetime add-ons. So we've been getting them forever as lifetime add-ons.
What? So yes, ma'am. So now you can buy chicken wings in the store, but when you go to Fry's over there in Litchfield, and they have the chicken wing bar over there, right?
Right.
You remember that?
Yeah.
So they stopped making chicken wings because of the shortage.
Wow.
Yeah. You have all the different flavors and stuff.
So I feel like we're going to see a lot of other supply, like some of the supply and demand we see right now aren't super noticeable. Like not everybody's traveling. There's still a lot of fear around travel. So people aren't necessarily seeing this rental car shortage and the high cost to, because clearly if, 1 out of every 10 cars is a Tesla or, some affair, and they're all super nice cars. Those prices are a little higher too to go with that.
Of course.
But so a lot of the supply issues I don't know that we're even seeing or necessarily aware of. And I know it took us several weeks to start to get one of the feeds in for our horses. Wow. And again, it was because, now that we're on the rotation, we're not seeing that like we were, but it took almost 3 rotations before we could get one of the feeds that we wanted. And again, they said it was just labor shortage.
Wow.
So,
wow.
And so, it's kind of concerning.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. When that supply chain breaks down, like it already has out there in the middle of the, where's that? Not the Panama Canal. What's the, out there?
The Suarez.
The Suez Canal. That's Suez Canal. So that supply chain right there is broken. Then you've had things like in the Midwest where you've had so many floods and stuff that you've had cattle die. That supply chain has been affected by that. And then you've got a shortage of people working. There's another break in the supply chain, and then and even truckers, they can't keep truck drivers.
Mm-hmm.
There's another break in that supply chain as far as.
Well, sure. I mean, yeah, you know plenty of them. We know truck drivers, and they're working their little booties off.
Yep. Freight rates are through the roof. Okay.
Yes. In fact, you know what? I had a friend of mine, check this out. So she, and this is where it's going to start to affect as well. And so I have a girlfriend who has you and I, you've had it, the beet kvass, right? My girlfriend makes beet kvass.
Oh, yes.
And, yes. And it's been, her business has really just been thriving. She's been getting to move it in all these places. And then she just shared on social media the other day, she showed her order for, and I want to believe it was somewhere around $1,400 to $1,700 for the the organic produce that she was ordering. And then the shipping cost was 14 to 17. It was literally a little bit more than the actual produce that she was purchasing. So there you go with that's a freight trip, so, how long is, she's not going to be able to maintain at the prices that she was. And, is that product, a staple that people are going to be willing to pay that kind of higher price? And, it's sad to think about, people's that kind of, somebody's dream, their livelihood going down tubes. And at the end of the day, when it's all because, and this isn't right, this isn't left, this is just the way it has been.
This is just the way it is. It's the way it is.
You hear them talk about big corporations running the show, and they are big banks and big corporations are running the show. And yes. I don't know who's pulling the strings. I don't believe it's right or left, or it's both. It's a combination of the two, whatever that looks like. Because somebody's choosing to manipulate the money supply. And yes. So, at the end of the day, unless we as a people begin to get smarter about how and I'm meeting people, I'm meeting some incredible people, that are looking at, okay, how do we barter goods and services, right? Mm-hmm. And that's where I think some of you see where cryptocurrencies come in. And I think that's where some of the virtual currencies and tokens and, those types of things come in, because all they are is a a token of value, right?
Yes, that's correct.
They're
Yes.
representing something of value. And it was interesting because I talked to a gentleman the other day and he's like, he was building a site where it was, well, let's just say somebody posts here that they need help moving. And Good Samaritan or, friendly neighbor Joe says, you know what? I'm available that day. He comes over and he helps this person move.
Yes.
Well, then he gets this token or this virtual credit of some sort that goes in his little time bank, right? It's kind of like a time banking thing. And then other companies, and so he's out there in search of companies that will be like, okay, will you accept this time bank currency to purchase this good and service? So it's the good old barter and trade system, but using technology to, maybe you traded with this person, but now you can trade with this person versus, having the manipulation here in the middle. And so it'll be super interesting to see, how far that gets, how widespread it can get, or is government control going to squash it before it really takes hold?
That will be interesting to see. Because of, they have to get their their part of it. And I'll just leave it at that. Yeah. But
so ultimately, I think, what I think our audience should know, right? And tell me if you think it's of anything else, they should, one, be doing absolutely they can to get any debt paid off right now.
Right now, yes.
Sooner than later.
Yes.
Next, I think really becoming part of a community, like,
and that was going to be the next thing that I was going to say.
Very good. Yeah. Who are you in community with? And I think, that's one thing that you take COVID and it sort of separated people and eliminated the communities. Now there's some great virtual communities that have started to come together. And so I think it's important to band together in communities and use, buying power as a community. We're starting to see more and more co-ops, right?
Yeah. Oh, yes, that's right.
What about, maybe it's time to start, planting your own seeds here and there.
I think better be able to operate on your own, and then really, go ahead. I was going to say that's the only reason. That's one of the biggest reasons why I want our own home, so that we can control that better than what we can here. Even though we have a pretty large balcony, and I did start buying a bunch of seeds. Okay.
I know. I actually let my garden go to seed this year so that I can learn how to harvest those seeds, because I know at the beginning of COVID, we saw shortages on seeds.
Yes, we did.
And so I let all of my, I've got, it's quite the mess right now. And I'm gonna, when we get back from vacation, look to how, learning how to harvest seeds from the plants that we had this year, so that we can, reuse those.
Okay. I was growing a little basil plant over there, and I had to run across the street to one of the stores, the home improvement stores, to buy some plant food, because my little leaves were starting to turn yellowish, because I guess I hadn't given it any food or anything. I was like, oh no, I can't let that happen. I gotta keep this alive.
Yeah. And then I think the next biggest thing is reducing expenses. Like, man, if you're eating out, need to stop. And then what are the things, think about commodities, I mean, I think, as supply chains slow, and I don't, and it's not to be like, oh, the sky is falling, prep or anything, but, what are the things that, and I'm not saying go go hoard toilet paper. No, but what are some of the things that, maybe right now you don't know, you and your family, really couldn't live without, whatever that is, if it's coffee, maybe you're buying an extra one now because next month it might be $5 more, right?
Right.
Maybe you're starting to put a little bit away in the case of not having it, or maybe you take some of the other things and, hey, I want to have this to, on hand to trade or barter for the things that maybe I don't have. Right. So, it really is a time to reduce expenses. Really. I mean, like, reduce expenses as absolutely much as you can.
Absolutely.
Get those.
Start a business.
Start a business. Yep. Absolutely. Hey, you know what? And that's I mean, if you're not earning money yet and you're sitting at home on unemployment, maybe it's the perfect time to start a business so that by the time you do start earning, if unemployment is no longer available to you, you're okay.
I think this is an ideal time to start a business, to start a home-based business.
Absolutely.
So for those people who don't want to go back to work, this is your chance. This is it. I mean, I think that when all of this really hits the fan, people are going to be looking for something.
Absolutely.
They're going to be looking for something, and now is a perfect time to do that.
Absolutely. And audience, Yvonne is the perfect lady to talk to about that. She runs her own online business. So, Yvonne, how does somebody get in touch with you should they want to talk more about what's going on? I mean, you're very well versed with this. I mean, you worked in the system for many, many, many years. So you are, and you're studying this now, and you've, putting a lot of stuff together. So how does somebody get in touch with you if they want to have more conversation with you?
So if you want to get in touch with me, you can email me at Yvonne Holmes. That's YVONNEHOLMES 1959
Awesome.
So feel free to send me an email, and I would be happy to share with you what I do and how it can impact your life, and how it has impacted mine, and how it's impacting, and what I'm doing to get out of the matrix. Because trust me, I'm still in it, but let's get out together. Let's get out together.
Absolutely. Awesome. And then, I know you're on LinkedIn and Facebook, so find Yvonne Holmes. She's an incredible woman. You're sure to learn a lot, and I wouldn't want to be holding on to the coattails of anybody else right now in this kind of economy. So with that, we're going to close. We'll be back next time, and have a wonderful afternoon.
All righty. Have a great night. Thank you.
Hope you enjoyed that episode of the Cheap Mama Life podcast. Be sure to subscribe, rate, and review right now if you haven't already, and hit that share button. Until next time.